Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another live video. I've got out of bed early for a very good reason today, because alongside me is someone worth getting out of bed early for, which is a strange sentence. No one's probably ever said that to you before. Anyway, hello and welcome to Nedum Onuoha, former Manchester City player and currently the hot thing in the punditry world. How you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I didn't know 9 a.m. was early though. I thought this was just like mid-morning technically.
Yeah, it is. I presume you've got kids and a family and actually live adult life, whereas someone like
Yes.
myself is a jobbing waster who, yeah, I'm a night owl though. I sit there at 2 in the morning editing videos,
Uh,
yeah, and I
okay,
have to get out of
okay.
bed early, so I don't get out of bed early. But I reckon that'll change in a couple of years.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt, no doubt.
with
I
the,
get what you're saying now. I understand. Yeah.
yeah. But either way, you're used to it anyway. You're an ex-pro, man. Like, you must have been out of bed early all the time, I presume.
Nah, it depends. It depends. I think sometimes some managers like to train early, some managers like to train late. But ultimately, as soon as you have a child, then everything changes because the clock isn't really that important anymore. It's more a case of when somebody's standing over you first thing in the morning saying, "I want to go downstairs." So yeah, that's where I'm at, and that's the more
Like
important thing, I
Christmas
think.
every single day. I remember
It,
that, like that kind of whole Christmas spirit. Like, I want to go downstairs.
yeah. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. But in fairness, it's fine. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
Oh, bless it. Well, I'm probably only a couple of years behind that ideally anyway. So I'll be up. I'll be an early owl, or I'll just never sleep. I've just accepted I'll
Yeah,
never really
that's the
sleep.
thing. I think if
I
you're
don't
gonna
sleep
do what
anyway.
you do, if you're gonna do what you do and have children, I think basically every day is a full 24 hours of you being awake for it.
Mate, I'm just training them to take over me one day, like, into the hot seat. So like, hopefully, like they'll do better. They'll have then have wife's looks as well, so they'll be better looking and probably more talented. So that's what I reckon. So I'm planning to do. What are you gonna say there?
No,
Probably.
nothing. Nothing. No, I was gonna say progress. I was gonna say progress. That's continuous improvement. Yeah, that's good. I see
Have
what
you
you're
thought
doing there.
about? Have you done that whole like? Have you heard that like meme about Project Mbappe? Like, kid's gonna be a great footballer, kind of thing. Are
Uh,
your kids kicking footballs yet?
do you know I've heard that and I've seen it kind of firsthand because Stephen Ireland, his son is 17 now, but I started playing with Stephen Ireland 17 years ago. So I remember when he first came into the
Oh
world and
wow,
I saw the amount of time that Steve was investing into him, and having played with him now and just a little kick arounds, he's actually really, really good. So that Project Mbappe thing, I have seen it firsthand. But as for my kids, I'll be honest with you, in some ways, I'd rather they didn't want to play football because I'm not
I
really
can
looking forward
imagine.
to Saturday mornings just out in the cold for like 20 years straight. But maybe that's just me being selfish.
I love the idea of Project Island instead. That would have been the thing the world didn't need.
Yeah,
They didn't need to know that they knew about. I reckon. I hope is his lad doing all right at
yeah, it's
any
good.
level
Yeah,
or anything like that?
yeah, he is. Yeah, he's currently at Stoke, but I think last summer he went over to trial with like Dortmund and teams like that. So he's like
Nice.
he's good. He's really good.
Stephen
He's really
Ireland was
good.
a brilliant footballer. I don't think some people realise, especially these City's younger fans, how good he was. In terms of talent. Like, am
Yeah.
I exaggerating here? But I felt like
No,
he
no,
was.
no, no. It's very good. He's very Stevie Hand was and it still is to this day very good. Like it's weird how he's sort of retired slash non-retired,
Yeah.
but he's very good in terms of people who impress you in training and things like that. He was always one of the best. And then you go out there in games and he could dominate as well. He was a special player.
I always thought he would have been one who maybe took a similar path to yourself, over to the MLS as well. Like I thought he
Hmm.
would. He probably. Do you know, like there was some players like who go to the MLS. What was the striker called? He was at Arsenal. Carlos Vela was it?
Yeah.
He became like a proper. Even Bradley Wright Phillips didn't he as
Yeah,
well? I'm
yeah, he did,
surprised
yeah.
like Steven to go over there and absolutely smash it.
But
Not saying he had to, but I would have thought he would have suited him.
yeah, well, that's the thing, though. In terms of going to the MLS, there's a perception about what you can be to go over there, but then the teams are very specific about who they want and when they want them.
Yeah, yeah,
So even though you think that you can go over there and dictate this and dictate that, like things aren't necessarily that simple because you've got things like international slots and stuff like that, and you've got
yeah, yeah. Of course.
X amount of people that will be paid this, and everybody else has to be paid that. Like I don't know if you know this, but it's still a lot of money. But as of last year, 1/3 of the league was on less than $100,000 a year. Did you know that?
Oh, so it's very. No, I didn't. It's a very normal wage, which kind of obviously well paid
Kind
normal wage, but still.
yeah, it is well paid, but like I say, it's below that. With the minimum being, if you're coming through, say, like an academy type setup, the minimum being, I think it was 54,000 or something like that, and that's dollars as well.
Yeah.
So like I say, it's some even though like you see people like Ibrahimovic who could be earning 7 million, Vela five
That's
million,
crazy
G Teresa, all
discrepancy,
that
isn't it?
stuff. Yeah, and I'm sure they'll figure out at some point, but yeah, your experience going over there, it literally depends which club you land at and at what time in history, because sometimes they can pay people, but most of the times they aren't going to do that. So yeah, it's not quite what people perceive it to be like.
Ah, that's fascinating. That well, I got you here to talk about like City's upcoming season, but I just want more tales and Nedum. It's genuinely just the interesting bit. Someone just said as well in the comments, didn't Grealish mention Stephen Ireland saying he was class?
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, were they? Oh yeah, because they were at Villa together, weren't they?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
what do you make of?
Steve is very, very good. Go on.
What do you make of Jack Grealish coming to Manchester City? Your personal opinion on Jack in general as a footballer, and I guess how far or what you think he'll achieve at Man City in general. Like, do you think there's a reason why Pep's bought him?
I think he's a very exciting footballer. I think he's probably the most in this moment, barring someone like a Foden, I'd say the most exciting English talent that's out there at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And you could tell that from, say, the way the Euros went. You know, when he wasn't playing, people seemed to be desperate for him to come onto the field and try and affect things, even though realistically he only made his debut for England at the end of last year. So we look at him as if he's been playing at that level for years and years and has had a huge impact, but he hadn't at that point. But you can see how exciting he is, and you can see with the infrastructure at City in terms of the training ground, the players around, and even the manager that's in play now. If there is a place whereby you could see somebody that's very talented become better, you'd almost expect it to be somewhere like a Man City. So I think City have sort of seen his strengths. You know, they're aware of everybody's weaknesses, but they've seen his strengths and thought that they can take him to that next level. And in Jack, when you listen to the way he speaks, he's excited to be around this level of talent, to be coached by this particular manager. And I think it's a boost for City. I think the downside is club have a lot of attacking talent, you know, and these are people who have done it year in, year out for the club. So in terms of who's going to start, who's not going to start, I'm not sure, but every game they're going to be 3 or 4 probably disappointed faces who could be playing anywhere around the league, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's going to be the tricky bit, but it's a strong addition. And then when you look around at the other teams in terms of what they've done this summer, you know, a lot of teams decided the what happened last year wasn't good enough. So they're trying to build on that. When you look at Chelsea with a Lukaku, you look at United with a new centre-back, and, you know, with Jadon Sancho as well. And then you look at Liverpool with the strength that they're having now from having people coming back into the side. You know, their teams have got a big boost. And I think with Jack, that is a boost for City in this part. But I'm hoping that it's part one of a 2-part plan, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, we know what you're all referring to there. Fingers crossed. I guess Harry Kane is the one. I mean, it's not exactly hidden news anymore that City are into. Even Pep himself admitted it, and that's rare actually, that he comes out and just goes, yes, basically we are interested in him. Well, I will ask once on the Grealish thing a little bit, because it's just one signing so far, and obviously it's one player coming into a squad of 20 odd. But have you ever seen before, as an ex-pro yourself, that visible boost when a player comes in? Like, can one player like change the dynamic notably, or at least give the momentum and the energy that the squad potentially needs? Because even though City, you'd be remiss to say that they needed it, given how good they were last season. There's a lot of players that have been there for a long time now, and familiarity can set in, can't it? Can one player change that feeling around the dressing room?
Yeah, I think it can. I think it can be a spark, because in Jack, he plays in a particular style which we probably don't have at City at this moment in time. You know, he has something that's a little bit different. So when he arrives at the training ground, he's a new personality. When he arrives on the training pitch, he's got a particular style which people don't know how to play with or play against at this moment.
Yeah.
But when you start to see the strengths and the stuff that he brings, then I think you can get excited about what he can offer to the team. I think with City, though, like, let's be very, very clear, we're incredibly blessed, because the attacking talent that City have is as good as you've probably seen in your lifetime. So when you can have a boost in bringing something different, but what was there before, you've already seen to be truly, truly successful. And they do it year in, year out. You know, they don't just have 1 year, then they spend a couple of years off. Like, they do it year in, year out. But to talk about my time at City, like the player coming in the boost situation, when I first was coming through, the players the club would be buying tended to be a bit older. So they might have a name, but they're not necessarily the name at their prime. But then that changed after the takeover, because the first person that arrived through the door was Robinho. Like, how's the expectation of the club where you go from being in this situation to now having somebody who's arrived from Real Madrid for £32.5 million, and he's now the start of the new era for the club? And then other people arriving. Then you start seeing people like Tevez. Then you start seeing people like Aguero. Like, these are people who do make a massive boost. Like, to be fair, the Tevez one was probably the biggest one, because if you want to talk about boost, How about
The
you
city
take
changed,
away
didn't it? Like the whole city
exactly, yeah,
changed for that.
exactly. How about you take away one of the stars from the team that's down the road and bring him to your place at a time when he's close to his peak? That's that.
What
What
was
more of
the
a biscuit just for?
What was it like in the dressing room? I'd be interested to know what it was like in the dressing room when the Robinho stuff happened. And essentially, it's a two-part question. Like, did you know it was happening?
Nope.
And oh, there we go. I mean, was it like a holy fuck kind of moment? Because I remember exactly where I was. I was at a pub quiz with a mate as a City fan, and a few of my friends sat there. And I remember Sky Sports News being on in the background because it was quiet in the pub, and we all just like had head in hands when it was like breaking news: Robinho signing for Man City. I mean. Was it a similar feeling for the players? Because it's Robinho. He was at the start. He
Yeah,
was a superstar, wasn't it?
yeah. It was that exact same feeling because as that day was finishing, oh sorry, as the day started when he signed, it felt like a normal day. Then things started to get a little bit funny with rumors about this, that, and the other. But nothing was set in stone. Nothing was concrete. And then one thing which I think is a misconception about footballers is that you think sometimes it's perceived as we get the info before others. Listen, many a time in my career was I sitting in front of my TV watching Sky Sports News, finding out something about myself or my football club,
I
like
can
just the
imagine.
same, just the same as everybody else. So when you're sitting down, you see the takeovers happen, then you see Robinho signed, and you're like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, oh, so, but that's Robinho from Real Madrid because I think there was all talk, even with Shinawatra, there was talk that we were going to be great, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was, that was a false start because we were good at the start of the season, then we just completely tailed off because I think that was the year when Fit lost
That was a
8-1 or
fun
whatever to,
season.
yeah,
Yeah, but then the end of the season.
but
But the start of the season was
exactly,
great fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, exactly. But then things sort of took a turn, and then you started hearing issues about his assets being frozen and this, that, and the other. So even though you thought that something good was going to happen, there was never a true feeling that it was definitely going to happen. Then all of a sudden, new ownership comes in. Then all of a sudden, the statement is made: "We've just signed Robinho." Like Robinho, not let me say Romario in his 40s. No, we signed
Yeah.
Robinho in his 20s from Real Madrid. Like bang, there we go. You're like, okay, so what's training going to be like? So I'm just going to be walking out tomorrow and like Robinho's there, and that's in the end what it ended up being, and that was the start of something, and it was good because mixing Robinho with Alano, all of a sudden you go from Alano being good to Alano being great in pockets
That's
because the
interesting,
two of
that.
them are together. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, isn't it, about chemistry? And the chemistry is a thing, with players. And
Hmm.
you do, I'm sure you've felt, you've had players that you played before that you felt like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
100% play better when they're on the pitch. And
Yeah.
I presume, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I can imagine it feels that way sometimes because you just have
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
understanding of
100%.
each other's game, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
and
100%.
and that's and obviously maybe that's part of the value for Jack Grealish and for Harry Kane, because I mean there's visible, very obvious proof of how well Jack can play with some of these City players. We've seen him literally, and I'm sure Guardiola would like to create it, chipping crosses to the back post for Sterling to head in, and we've seen him, set up goals for Harry Kane and link up with Phil Foden, and there must be a draw for that familiarity as well, knowing that they can play in the same team, literally physically seeing that. That
Yeah.
must be really tempting
Yeah.
because it removes some of the jeopardy, doesn't it?
It's like you've seen it. Everyone's seen it. I think at City are very lucky at this moment because the team is so successful and there's a core of English talent in there as well, and they're all playing together for the most successful England team that we've seen in our lifetimes. When
Yeah.
you're looking at Walker, Stones, Sterling, Grealish now. Who else am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting someone else.
Walker, Stones, Foden.
Foden,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you know what
He's
I mean.
all right.
Like, yeah, he's not too bad. Like these are incredibly talented people who all played well together. They seem to get on together. And then with Grealish, one thing which he's bringing, which is really, really nice for me to see, is that it seems like he loves the game and wants to get better.
Oh, massively, yeah.
As he walked into the stadium, you can see his like level of excitement. It's almost like a child, that sort of giddiness, and that's what most people who are outside of football would feel if they were in that same situation. So here you have somebody who's been a star for a big club in Aston Villa, for example, but he sees this as the next level. He sees the players around him as the next tier, and he wants to be a part of that, and he wants to step on. Because I think, so going back to when transfers were still first going on under new ownership and so on, I think there were some players who you could argue were maybe coming in because they thought about success, but they wanted money because it was a big payday and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But now there's a whole different Man City experience, in my opinion. Like they will be paid well, but people, as you can see through the eyes of someone like a Jack Grealish, are excited to be there and to be a part of what it is to be Man City, to be trying to go for four trophies a season, to be coached by Pep Guardiola, to be playing alongside Kevin De Bruyne, to be trained at one of the best training grounds in the world. Like that's
Yeah.
like what it's incredible. That's genuinely exciting.
It's from my perception anyway. It's the dream for a footballer, isn't it? To play with the best players, some of the best players in the world, to get paid really well to do it, to get
Yeah.
play with one of the best managers in the world. I mean, and the current champions and last year's season's Champions League finalists. I mean, this idea, and I'm not naive, and you're not. I know where City are because of we spent an awful lot of money, and that's
Yeah.
where we are because that's how the world goes around, unfortunately. But this idea that there isn't, that's the only motivating factor is money.
No.
It just clearly isn't true. I mean, it's silly. It's
Yeah.
silly. It's quite literally silly because go on, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, to put a sense of reality onto it, like there are people who are motivated by money and there are people motivated by football. The two things can go hand in hand. But if you want money in the Premier League, like I think it was Crystal Palace in the last few years, they've had players who've been on, say, £100,000 a week, and that's at Crystal Palace. So the concept of money, you'd argue 5 million a year or whatever that is, that's attainable at Crystal Palace means that you can be rich and not have to be one of these other clubs, one of the big clubs.
Yeah.
So when you come into one of those big clubs, unless you're literally coming from, I don't know, somewhere that's really lower league or something like that, or from, say, another country's league where they pay next to nothing, like the money is like a bonus, but to sign for the club is the main part. As I say, I think, in my opinion, I think times have changed, and as I say, people will celebrate being paid well, but it's their overall experience now, and I think that shows in some ways like how far City have come because the infrastructure is in place to the point where by now they are one of the most desirable clubs for what they are, not just what they pay, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, 100%, man, and that's how it is. Unfortunately, for people who aren't Manchester City fans, it's just a true statement. For people who aren't Manchester City fans, so you've got Chelsea fans, United fans, Liverpool fans. Is it fair to say that in your view, they'll going into the season feeling quite confident because how open do you think the season's going to be? Because obviously City are fantastic, and we don't really know how they're all going to gel. And we don't know if City will sign Kane, for example. There are rumours, but that might not happen. It might happen. But Chelsea, as you mentioned earlier, they've really, once again, they've strengthened with Lukaku, who's a fantastic player, and they've got a squad obviously that's settled after last year as well, and obviously had some success towards the end of the season, a little bit of success, but we won't go on that. And obviously, United have signed one of the best young wingers in the football and a genuine world-class centre-half, with immense experience, a World Cup winner, a Champions League winner, multiple Champions League winner. Liverpool players back from injury. What are your expectations for this season, just as a football fan broadly, and also your City's expectations?
So I think this year will be the closest title race amongst more than two teams that we've probably seen in a very long time. I think the top four might be spread by maybe, come the end of the season, maximum maybe 7 points or something like that.
Yeah.
So to the point with that where everybody has been involved in the title race at some point, and it'll come down to, say, maybe finer details towards the end of the year. That's what I think. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think
5 games, something like that. Separate.
Exactly, yeah. But I think that because of the additions that Chelsea have made, because I think in Lukaku coming back, I think he's going to be the Premier League's top scorer. And when you look at Chelsea, exactly, when you look at the way Chelsea were last season, it seems like that's what they were missing from being like prime. And that's a team that still managed to beat City 3 times, including one time in the Champions League final. So imagine them with that. And then with United, Then with United, they've got the renewed energy and hope of an exciting young talent in a Jadon Sancho who's been doing it in Germany exceptionally well and could come to England and do exactly the same. And if he does that, that's a huge boost in the City. Because lest we forget, like, for as much as we are, in my opinion anyway, for as much as I'm a Man City fan, like, seeing United struggle year in, year out doesn't give me necessarily the same sort of joy that it should do. Like, I'm happy to see them. I'm happy to see them finish second to City. I'm happy, but as long like if they're doing well, I think it makes the Premier League a better product. So in Sancho going there, I think that makes them more exciting.
Oh, it's definitely exciting. I can't deny that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I want to see him do well, not too well, but I want to see him do well. So that's a boost for them. That's a boost for that fan base because the fan base seemed like they were very angry come the last few months of last season, as we saw quite openly on TV and in certain other situations. And then with Liverpool, like they've got some of their stars back, but then also they've got their fans back. And Anfield, I think we forgot how hostile a place that used to be. Up until City won there last season. Like the last time was Nicolas Anelka, 2003, I believe. And you think, and you can put the teams together side by side and so on. I think, oh, surely that can't be right. But it was right, and that's probably that crowd is probably one of the big reasons for that because they're a team that can go 3 years unbeaten at home, and you think, well, that's insane. But that's who they are. So that's a big boost for them. And one thing, actually, I've got to address this because I'm in this quote punditry game now. Punditry. I like to call myself a broadcaster, but it's punditry game. This at the start of the season,
LinkedIn, doesn't it?
Oh mate, they asked us like this punditry thing gets linked to an expert, but they ask you questions which you know are always going to lead to incorrect answers. So when somebody asks you for your top 4, I have no idea what it's going to be. I do not have an idea. But let me be clear though, I support Man City and I think they can win the league, so I'm going to put them in at 1. After that. And like that could be wrong. It could very well be wrong because it's been wrong before. But then I put other teams into that top 4, and for my pick, I put Chelsea in 4th. Again, knowing that I have no idea what's going to happen, and I was getting attacked on Twitter because I put Chelsea in 4th. Who's saying I don't know football? I'm like, I don't know the future. I just like pick a top 4 without putting someone in 4th.
You're gonna love this next segment then. Name your 1 to 20. No, I'm joking.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, just sat there going. Well, some people have done that, and fucking like, I don't know how they do that for one. Like, football is chaotic, isn't it? And that's why we love it. Like this idea. I mean, Chelsea could finish 4th, 6 points behind Man City. You know, like, and that could be exactly. 3 games at the end of the season where they just lose 3 in a row, and that's not even unrealistic because that's football. Which is kind of why we love it. And like, oh man, like, are you? How's your experiences with social media now you've stepped into the spotlight?
It's nonsense. It's nonsense. There's some good people on there, but overall it's absolute nonsense because some people come try to find me for no reason. Like just leave me be. Like, or if you wanna listen to what I'm saying, try and listen to the whole thing of what I'm saying. Like, don't just look at my top 4 pick. Listen to the explanation around it. And I always start by saying I don't have a clue, but here's this, and I probably think this might be the tightest ever. Thus, that margin of error means anything could happen. That's what I'm trying to say. But instead, it's like, oh, you're the only guy that put Chelsea in 4th. You're a disgrace. I'm like,
no one reads the review anymore. They just look for the score. That's how it is in life. And look, I presume we've had a few chances ourselves. And I try and be the reasonable guy in this fan channel space and whatever. But the amount of times I do a video somewhere and I'm thinking, I think I've done all right there, like repping the City fan base. And then as you see the comments, like this arrogant Man City wanker. What did I say? And I'm there like picking up like Chelsea for ages, and then say maybe City might just beat him for experience. And then all of a sudden, like, can't be bothered listening to this arrogant City fan. I'm like, I swear I was as reasonable as possible. But people just want to hear what they want. It's what they want to hear.
That's exactly right. I think for some people, they think that they want to hear something neutral, but they don't once the neutrality means that their club aren't in the best light. And like, I'm getting called anti-Chelsea or anti this or anti that. Like, I'm literally not anti anyone. Like, I support Man City. If City do well, I'm happy to praise them. If they do badly, I'll be realistic and say like they didn't do well. I'm not a PR guy for City. I'm not getting paid by City to smooth over any cracks. Like, that's not a thing. I just love the game of football the same as everybody else, but I've had the experience of playing it. So I'm trying to be fair to everybody because I know that situation's tough when you listen to people from from TV and so on. And it seems like they do have an agenda against your club. I'm trying not to have an agenda against anyone. And if you play well, you play well. If you win, you win. That's just what it is.
For what it's worth, and I remember a friend saying this to me, like a good mate who actually works for Man City, he's a cameraman there, and he was saying like the problem with social media is that, and it's also a great thing because it's a meritocracy and all that kind of stuff, but everyone has an equal voice, so you can get someone who could reply to a Nobel Prize winner and have thousands of likes, and all of a sudden their views seemed as more important. Whereas if that exact same person tried it to a random guy in the street, you just go, all right, mate, and you just walk off. Twitter, and so it's like everyone gets an equal footing, which is great, of course.
Yeah,
but not every opinion is often as worth as strong as another. Through for a myriad of reasons, and I'm not saying anyone's opinion isn't worth it, but I'm just saying, guy in the street's opinion is not worth the same as a guy with a Nobel laureate or whatever it is, something, But that's just But that's just Twitter and social media for you. Are you stepping into a studio anywhere this season for the campaign?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Not a TV studio. So I don't really love doing the pre-game, post-game type things. I'm not really that big into that. but I've got a show on 5 Live, which is going to be on every Sunday, 12 till 2 with Steve Grossman. I've got a
Oh,
thing
nice.
with Sky Sports News every Friday, which is actually from 10 till 12, including today on this live after this live stream.
So
And
you've
then
got 29 minutes left.
yeah, essentially. And then I've got some work for ESPN. I'm doing some stuff with the Athletic, and like I'm happy because I'm doing the
Yeah, that's
stuff which
good.
I really enjoy doing, and it's stuff which can be thoughtful instead of stuff which is just after a headline or clickbait. And I'm very much against that. And I think if it turned into that, then I'd probably stop doing it all because I love football, but I don't necessarily love all the other things that are around it.
Yeah, of course. What's the Sky thing you're doing at 10?
I guess it's just a preview show for the weekend's games. So that's going to be every
Okay.
Friday. Literally starting today, and I'll just be doing breakdowns. Well, we're doing myself. I'm on with I think Leanne Sanderson today, and we'll just be talking about say the games which are coming up, expectations for the season. But then as the weeks go by, you can talk into specifics, talk about tactics and stuff like that. Yeah, it should be good fun.
I'm looking forward to that, man. I'll definitely be tuning into that because I've got nothing else to do today, so I'll be tuning in at 10 o'clock. You say Sky Sports News was it on? Did you say, or
Sky
was it
Sports
on?
News, yeah. Sky Sports News.
I'll be putting that on. I don't have Sky, but I'll find a way. But don't tell anyone I said that. Nedum, I know you're a very, very busy man, so I'll let you go. So we won't get through the 1 to 20 thing. But is there anyone in particular, finally, that you're expecting big things from this season at Man City? Like, do you think there would be any particular surprises or anything like that from a certain player?
Do you know what? Here's a hot take for you. Yeah.
Oh, I love a hot take.
I think we're obsessed with Kane because we know he scores goals.
Yeah.
But for City, if somebody can step up and score those goals, then do City need Harry Kane in this particular moment? So when you look at the squad that's already there, perhaps this is leaning towards somebody like a Gabriel Jesus stepping up and having his best season of his career. Because if he does get 15 to 20 in the league, then surely that fills the void that would be there if Harry Kane came. What do you think?
I guess the people would turn around and say Harry Kane would get 25 to 30 instead of 15 to 20.
You think that's what it? But then that's not what happens every season though in the Premier League, is it? Because we talk about.
It's not.
You know what I mean? That's the interesting thing. Like that, and to be honest, that's if City don't get Kane. I think if City don't get Kane, I think it allows someone like him the opportunity to step up.
What I do kind of agree broadly is I do think City should sign a striker, mainly because I think there's a symbolic nature of it after Aguero going. I think in general, if you lose a great striker, replacing one of them, given the fact that the rivals have spent well as well, there's something symbolic about that, and that I think means a lot. I also don't think the world is about to enter Manchester City if they don't sign Harry Kane. They find a way, and we've still got cracking players and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see about that. But Jay-Z,
for clarity, before this gets away from me, because again I've just said something. Like, I agree with you that it would be great to see somebody come in to try and replace Sergio Aguero, and emphasis to try and replace Sergio Aguero. I would love that, and to see someone like Harry Kane who has scored, who's been in the top probably 3 or 4 in terms of top goal scorers in the Premier League for the last 5-6 years. That's kind of what you want to see. But I'm like you, if it doesn't happen, I think there's somebody within that group that can step up and do that if they get the opportunity and get in the flow of it. So when I think about a 9 that's still there, then that's why I'm thinking about Gabriel Jesus. That's my explanation.
I always think when you've got really, really good, a collective of really good footballers and an incredible coach, a bit Jurassic Park, life finds a way. We'll sort it out, and we've got too many high quality players. And no, I wouldn't be surprised at all if, say, Kane stuff didn't happen, Jesus was forced to stay and be the striker. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored 25 goals next season. Of course I wouldn't, because he's obviously got the quality, and there's maybe a confidence issue in front of goal sometimes. But he clearly has the quality, even if it isn't quite unlocked yet for whatever reason. I wouldn't be surprised.
If Ilkay Gundogan could have his best ever goal scoring season last season by more than doubling his league tally, then why can't someone else do similar?
My opinion is Phil this season, Phil Foden, he's going to explode hugely. I've got a feeling he's going to go. And obviously, he was cracking last season, but I felt like he warmed up to it throughout the season as well. I feel this season when he feels comfortable with the space that Grealish will draw, and hopefully, maybe even Raheem back to his best, because we saw he wasn't at his best last season. I'm not being hypercritical, but his form compared to his England form, there was a bit of a discrepancy. I think even Raheem would admit that himself, given the fact he found himself on the bench. But if he finds his form again and the space that would afford people like Phil, I think Phil be looking at 20 goals in the Premier League this season. I honestly think
it's exciting.
Very.
It's exciting.
But so is your new show on Sky Sports News. So go let you prepare for that, mate. Nedum, you're an absolute legend, mate. I hope you enjoyed the season, and I'm sure we'll cross paths at some point again this season as well.
No doubt. Great speech, mate. Take it easy,
guys. Go and watch his new show at 10 o'clock, and obviously go check out the Kickback with Nedum podcast. It's fantastic. See you in a bit, everyone. Bye bye.